An unfortunate science experiment confuses and disgusts residents of a small town. And then we take a look at the story of one of the most unusual Bigfoot sightings on record. Is it possible that Bigfoot was videoed so close up you could see the angle of his dangle? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too, and I hope you guys have some awesome plans for the weekend. This weekend, I really am hoping to see Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I mean, by now, the reviews have come in. It's like 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the people seem to love it. And you know me, I love a good horror movie, so I'll let you guys know how it is. I'll let you know if the critics were right or the audience was. Looking forward to it. But someone who doesn't wait to watch the movies in the theaters, someone who bootlegs them all at home, a known criminal. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Blitz Neo. Woohoo, yeah, he's running on a bunch of hard drives. He's taking data from Dead Rabbit Radio Command. That's not movies, dude. Blitz Neo made a donation during our Dead Rabbit Radio live stream. That is why he's not a criminal, by the way, at least not that I know of. Yeah, but he did make a donation, probably with stolen funds, to the Dead Rabbit Radio live stream special. That is why he's going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the merch store or the Patreon or the live streams, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Also, I want to say this. December 19th, we will be having our December Dead Rabbit Radio Movie Club. To join us for the movie club on December 19th, it's at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We watch a bunch of short horror movies, and that is for the Patreons. If you guys want to join us there, you can be a free or a paid member of the Patreon, and you'll have access to the Dead Rabbit Radio Movie Night on Friday, December 19th. The following morning, for our international listeners, we have the Dead Rabbit Radio Movie Morning. That's on December 20th. That, I don't know exactly what time that's going to take place. I'll figure that out, and I'll start announcing that next week. Last time we had a movie morning, we made it available to everyone, Patreon or not. We may do that again, so stay tuned for that detail. But if you're a Patreon member, definitely you have access to both the movie night and the movie morning, and I'll give you more details next week. Okay, Blitz Neo, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to toss you the keys to the Carpenter Carriage, the new vehicle. The Carpenter Carriage, we're getting fancy today. Everyone climb on board as Blitz Neo grabs the reins of the horses and leads us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way to Missouri. Clop, 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 clop. You're like, I don't know if that's the Crypt Keeper or a horse. Giddy up. We're heading all the way out to Missouri. Specifically, we're headed to Sedalia, Missouri. And you go, Jason, you already did this story. We were just at Sedalia, Missouri not too long ago. Well, that's true. We recently were in Sedalia, Missouri. I think it was earlier this week, to take a look at the phenomenon of the spook lights. Odd Old News, this really cool Substack, covered that, and I got the story from him, and we covered it on our show. Thanks again, Odd Old News. But while I was trying to verify the information in that article, and it was an old-timey article, the story took place back in 1875, I started to look at other sources around the time to see if I could find any proof or any backup articles. And I didn't, but I found this one. And I was like, ooh, 2 for 1? This is awesome. Makes my researching job a lot easier. We're headed all the way out to Sedalia, Missouri. It's 1890, summertime. And the reason why I'm saying all that is because the heat factors into this story. It's a sweltering Missouri day, and we're at the home of the Petersons. Now, you have Mr. and Mrs. John Peterson. And they're both older. You know, they're not no spring chickens no more. But Mrs. Peterson, I didn't know this was true. I know it's true nowadays. But I didn't know that other people, old people back in the past, could get this big. I don't even know how you would eat enough, what did they eat back then? Not even burgers. They had, steak and potatoes and gourds. They probably ate a lot of gourds. Mrs. Peterson was 300 pounds in 1890. Nowadays, you might go, that's weird. I spent an entire day driving around town and didn't notice one obese person. Because there's just so many people who are overweight and obese in America, myself included. I'm not just like pointing out the fatties as I drive by. I'm just pointing at the mirror. Look, there's one in the car. Everyone jump out. But a 300-pound person in 1890, I mean, you think about it, that's quite the feat. You really have to kind of go out of your way to get that heavy, eating nothing but 1890 food, which is probably like corn on the cob and cornbread and probably some okra or whatever. I don't think, you wouldn't think it was possible, but she did it. Now, not because she was trying to prove a point or anything. It was just, she was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. 300-pound woman in 1890, Sedalia, Missouri. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it was Spring Fork, Missouri. Mrs. Peterson, 300 pounds in the year 1890. And, as you can imagine, that caused some pretty big health complications. Well, what happens is Miss Peterson, she's not doing too well in 1890, Spring Fork, Missouri. She's 300 pounds, and she ends up getting this condition called dropsy, which sounds kind of adorable, but it's not. It's actually quite gross. No offense, you're in the hospital right now. You're like, oh, I have an old-time disease, dropsy is what they called it. I know what'll cheer me up. Dead Radio, now you're crying. You're like, oh, I'm not gross. Actually, it's kind of gross. Sorry, but dropsy is where your body starts to fill up with fluid. Today, we call it edema. So basically, it's a side effect of having heart failure. Your organs are shutting down. And her legs and her appendages were just swelling up with bodily fluid, water, and stuff like that. So, I mean, like nowadays, it's pretty serious. Back then, it's a death sentence. Well, I mean, it can be a death sentence nowadays, too. Don't go, oh, it's not that bad. I'm sure the doctor will take care of it soon enough. What's he going to do? Poke a hole in my foot and let it all drain out? No, it's pretty bad all around, but 1890, there's not a ton you can do for it. So unfortunately, Mrs. Peterson dies. Now, what do you do with a 300-pound corpse? I mean, to be blunt, I'll tell you this. It's in the news, right? I got this from a newspaper article. So that should tell you something. You know, it's one thing for your death to be in the news, to have a death that's so unusual. It's reported in the news. But it's quite rare. I see that all the time because I read a lot of true crime and a lot of weird news stuff. I see weird deaths happen from time to time in the news. Like that poor young woman who was involved in a car accident. Her car rammed a truck in front of them that was carrying hot asphalt. It was like a dump truck. And I don't know what the cause of the accident was. I don't know if it was the dump truck's fault or if it was her driver's fault. I think it was the dump truck driver's fault. But they rear-ended a dump truck full of hot asphalt, which knocked a latch loose, which filled her car full of hot asphalt. And she basically got crushed and cooked to death at the same time. That's quite grim and brutal and dark. But those are the type of deaths that end up in the newspaper. It's very rare when you find the funeral preparation gone so wrong. A writer for a newspaper goes, this is newsworthy. You got 8 inches for me to fit into there, editor? Yep. Because I got a lot to say. So, this is just nuts. 300-pound corpse today, it's pretty standard. Nowadays, they have to make furnaces, crematories, big enough to hold a 300-pound person. The problem with burning someone that big, I used to have a summer job in a crematory. The problem, and that was back like in the, I don't know, when would that have been, late 90s? There weren't so many obese people back then, but there was enough. The problem is that obese people are highly flammable because all of the fat is flammable. And it can take longer to burn. It's kind of like a weird, you'd think, oh, so it's flammable, so it just go up like a match. You're like, oh, we can do 10 of these an hour. No, it's a weird thing. And I remember once, this didn't happen to me, but I was reading the newspaper. I'll see if I can find the article because it happened a while ago. A guy put an obese person into a cremation. The guy was dead, by the way, wasn't he? He's just like, hey, I'm going to lead a trail of donuts into there. No, and it ended up causing a fire and burning down the entire crematory. There's just too much flammable material in there. Some crematories will refuse to burn bodies if there's X amount of pounds. But imagine back where there probably wasn't any other 300-pound people anywhere near Spring Fork. Possibly not even the state of Missouri. So Mrs. Peterson's dead. She's in her house. And everyone goes, okay, well, we got to make funeral arrangements for her. And she wants to be buried, right? And her husband, who's still alive, goes, yeah, she wants to be buried. So they go, okay. So they have to call around to find a coffin big enough for her to fit in. It's a Thursday. And they finally get a hold of a coffin provider in the nearby big city. I don't remember which one it was. I didn't write it down. But they explain their problem. Hey, we got a 300-pound woman here. We can't find a coffin that'll fit her. And the guy on the other line goes, well, I don't think they have phones back then. They're just throwing paper airplanes back and forth, sending smoke signals. A guy in the city goes, well, tell you what, I'll send out the biggest coffin I have. Because, I mean, that's the only thing. I can't make one quick enough because it's summertime in Missouri. Her body's full of fluid. She's going to be decomposing really quickly. So they want to get her buried as soon as possible. He goes, well, I'll send one out. I'll send out my biggest coffin. They go, okay. They get this coffin ASAP. So this is all still happening on a Thursday. This is like the day after she died. The coffin arrives in Spring Fork, Missouri, and the people who are attending her funeral preparations realize something. It's not big enough. I mean, they're not going to have to chop her up and fit her in. It's not that small. Because it is the biggest coffin, basically the biggest coffin in the state, or at least in the part of the state they had access to. It's too small by a smidgen. So they go, well, which is why are you telling the story? It's this poor woman who died, and now you're just going to tell a story where they stuff her in a coffin that's too small for her? Well, let me finish the story, and then we'll decide whether or not it was worthy of me telling it. They get her and they go, okay, we can fit her in here. We're going to have to, a couple people are going to have to jump on her to squish her in, but we can do it. With enough of us and enough willpower and can-do attitude, we'll do it. So they end up getting her in the coffin again, just by a smidge. She's pretty stuffed in there. And they end up putting the lid on, which they had to screw it to the coffin itself, because if they just put the lid on, it would just slide off. She was that big. And the coffin was close to being that big, just not enough. They couldn't get the coffin lid to fit, so they had to screw it down. Now, this coffin, I don't know if this was tradition back then, but this coffin had a glass pane on it where the head and like the top part of the chest could be seen, so you could have a viewing at the funeral. So they finally got her stuffed into this coffin. They screwed the lid down, and you can see her face. And it says in the newspaper, her top bosom. So a little bit of cleavage. Disgusting, Jason. That's gross. Isn't she full of fluid from before she died? Now her body's quickly decaying. I don't want to think about her boobs. I don't want to think about her boobs at all. The newspaper said that. It wasn't me. I never would have considered that you could see her cleavage, but apparently you could. You could see her face and her cleavage. Now you got her in the coffin. It's screwed on. Perfect. The goal is, this is how it's all set up. Saturday is supposed to be the funeral. So they got her in the coffin on a Thursday. They got all that stuff. I believe she died on the Wednesday. They're trying to get this done as soon as possible. The funeral's going to be on Saturday. And they go, okay, well, we're going to wait for relatives to show up and all that stuff. However we're doing it, we'll have it on Saturday. She's in the coffin. Everything's good. Now, apparently, again, I don't know if this is a religious thing or an old-timey thing, but the tradition was you would have neighbors and friends kind of sit with the body overnight. I think it was probably a grave robber thing. And they wouldn't, like, sit in the same room with the body. That'd be disturbing. But so guy's like, hey, I heard there's cleavage to be seen. Anyone point me in the direction? They're like, no, don't look. You have her in another room. You have her, like, in the parlor. Then, you have a couple of the neighbors sitting in the living room. This is in the Petersons' home. John Peterson goes upstairs to sleep. Around midnight, so you have this gathering of people, friends, neighbors, just kind of sitting there, hanging out, chatting. When around midnight, the attendees hear a loud noise come from the parlor. Everyone springs to attention, right? The loud noise goes off. I think this is in their home. Again, old-timey writing's hard for me to understand, but they hear this loud noise. The article says the women ran out in fear. They didn't want to know what that noise was, which fair enough. It did come from the room of a dead woman. I'd be kind of cautious as well. It was a noise when no one was in there except for a dead woman in a casket. The men, however, more curious than anything, went to go find out what that noise was. The men walk into the room, and then we have this quote. This was from the Daily Democrat, the July 21st, 1890 edition. It's a Huntington, Indiana newspaper. Here's the quote. Quote, "The sight presented was a most horrible one. The gases of the body had accumulated in the casket until their force burst the glass over the face and bosom of Mrs. Peterson." This guy is a real... Why does he keep bringing up her bosom? Why does he keep bringing it up? He's like, oh, it was quite ample. I did have an eye for her while she was alive. I'm not a crazy person. The gases of the body had accumulated in the casket until their force burst the glass over the face and bosom of Mrs. Peterson. So terrific was the explosion that the body was shot forward and upward, the head protruding from the coffin. A vapor cloud, laden with the rankest of putrid odors, filled the room. Unquote. Imagine that. You're like, no, Jason, I don't want to. I'm like, no, imagine that. Imagine that. You hear a loud noise, you walk in, you see a bosom sticking out of a coffin, because you're a sicko. I noticed the head first, you pervert, but you noticed the bosom. What a weirdo. You see a bosom, an ample, decayed bosom sticking out of a casket, her head popping out as well. And not just that. I don't think that would be bad enough. Imagine hearing that noise and go, what's that? And then you see a rotting woman who you knew just a couple days ago as a living woman poking her head out of her coffin. But the smell. The smell is the one thing you can't really imagine. Smells are so hard. You can remember a smell, but to imagine the smell of a 300-pound woman in Missouri who died full of fluid, you have to keep bringing that up because that makes it extra gross. The fluid in her that was accumulating, and that's what killed her, is adding to all of this active decay. Plus the fact she barely fit into the casket, so this gas had nowhere to go but upward and outward, straight into the nostrils of the men who entered the room. Day-old dead woman. Sweat. Bile. Edema juices. Like, Jason, the story's just gross. You just found a gross story in an old newspaper and decided to share it with us. But imagine, you're right, but imagine the smell. It would be horrible. Imagine smelling so bad your death is in the newspaper. We're not done, by the way. That's not the end of the story. I don't know if it gets worse. I think it really depends on your opinion of ropes. But there's also a paranormal part of the story. So hold on. If you're like, where's the fast forward button? I should have fast forwarded it when he started making those fat jokes. And then he's talking about she won't fit and all that stuff. Fine. And no. There's paranormal part of the story too. Hold on. So anyways, obviously they can't wait to bury this body. They just can't. They go upstairs and they wake up Mr. Peterson and they go, hey, listen, I don't know. Did you hear that noise? He's like, what? No, sleeping like a baby. They're like, well, okay, good. It would have been disturbing if you had seen what had happened, but we got to tell you, dude, your wife's casket blew up. And He's like, what? Can I go see? They're like, no. Just stay here. Just stay here. You don't want to smell it or see it. He's like, what? Smell it? And they're like, oh, let me just finish. He goes, listen, so we have some options. We know that she wanted to be buried in a coffin in a graveyard, but the coffin's been destroyed. She blew up with such intensity that the coffin's pretty much unusable. So we have a choice now. We can wait to get a new coffin, which we were lucky to get this one, or we can bury her tonight because we have to take care of this. And so Mr. Peterson goes, okay, yeah, let's bury her tonight. So they actually take her to the backyard. And the men go, okay. Because she's still in the casket at this point. But the glass is shattered and it's, I'm sure the screws are loosed. It's not in best shape. And the men go, okay, we'll dig this hole. Which actually, I wonder if she was supposed to be buried in the backyard anyways. Because it takes a while to dig a hole deep. I'm not for sure. Because we're talking about old-timey traditions. Maybe that was their plan all along. But they definitely were going to wait until Saturday. Whether it was at a cemetery or this estate. They were going to wait a couple days. They go, we got to do it tonight. So they get some heavy rope and they get some strong men. They begin lowering her into the grave. This coffin, shattered glass, smell wafting through the Missouri night, bosoms. When all of a sudden, one of the assistants loses his grip on the rope, causing the coffin to fall at such an angle and with such force, the entire top of the coffin, like the front part of it, shattered. And now this grave is full of busted wood and a slumped, soggy body of a woman who died in fluid and exploded in gas. And they go, Mr. Peterson, okay, listen. We have some decision-making to make again. Okay, we know that she probably didn't want to end up this way. None of us wanted her to end up this way. But we have a choice. We can pull her out of this grave we've dug, get a new coffin, right? Get stronger people. And John and the other men in attendance kind of came to the conclusion, let's just bury her. Let's just bury her like this. So they did. They ended up throwing shovelful after shovelful of dirt onto the body of Mrs. Peterson until the grave was filled. It's an interesting story. It is disgusting, right? Did I cover it because it talked about putrid odors? Did it talked about exploding people? Yes. Yes, that was the main reason why. As you're sitting there like, oh man, I don't know why I listen to this podcast while I'm eating. I forgot who it was, but someone said they owned a hot dog cart. And they listen to Dead Rabbit Radio. They play it out loud for their customers. And this particular day, he's serving hot dog water. It's a little drink. It's an energy drink. It's all the protein of a hot dog and all the calories of water. Yeah, right. I did cover it because it's disgusting. But it's also interesting because I wonder this. We talk about problems that cause ghosts. And one of them is an improper burial. Okay, it doesn't get any worse than this. It really doesn't get any worse than this. And I wonder, this took place in Spring Fork, Missouri. The article said that the Petersons were actually one of the earlier settlers to the area. They were in that first or second wave. So they were held in high esteem. I bet you there are people in Spring Fork, Missouri who know or can dig up, no pun intended, but can dig up where this estate is, and I'd be really interested to find out if there's any hauntings there. Because again, it's such a disturbing way to be buried. And just the whole death process, even the death, filling up with liquid, it's not fun. I imagine, I don't know for sure, because your body's just going haywire, you're filling full of liquid. You might be able to drown in it. I don't know. Or... Well, no, Jason, you can't drown in it, but it's still super disgusting, and you feel gross, and then you die. It doesn't make it scarier if you drown in it. It would be kind of scary, right? If you're laying there, and you're like, whoa, and you're drowning and no one can help you. I would, if I saw someone with edema and they were dying, I'm sure that this is not the proper way to do it. But if their body's filling full of liquid, can't you just poke them and the liquid shoots out? Like a water balloon. Now, you'd have to be careful when you poked them. You're like, oh, poked you in the heart. Oh, uh-oh, blood shooting out. But if their legs are full of liquid, like any sort of pressure building, I'm sure doctors do this. I know they'll give you water pills and stuff like that. But if you're about to die from having too much liquid in you, I'm sure they could run a needle into you somewhere and suck out some of the juice. Turn it into hot dog water. That's the real recipe. Edema fluid. But anyways, I'm sure there are like emergency ways. Just like if you have too much blood. Is that and you have too much blood, you're like, the human body can only hold 7 liters. But I have 10. No. I'm sure there are things. Well, think about it. If you drink too much water or alcohol or anything, what do you have to do? You get it out of your body. You throw it up or you pee it out. So what I would be doing is stabbing you with like an ice pick in a very specialized spot. Like if your calves... And I'm only saying I would do this if you were dying, by the way. If you just came to me and go, I have a little bit of water weight on me. I'm a little bloated after Thanksgiving. I'm stabbing you with an ice pick. I'm saving your life. No, if I was walking down the street and a guy was laying on the ground, he was filling full of water, it looks like that girl from Willy Wonka. He's all, whoop. Stand back, everyone, stand back. This is edema. I know what's going on. It's either that, or they ate some gum that turned them into this water-filled, disgusting blob. But either way, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. I'd pull out an ice pick, and I would medically stab you. I would medically stab you in a very particular place. Like, if it was your legs, I would, like, get you in the calf, right? Stab you in the calf just once, and then water or fluid shoots out. And you're just laying there and you're like, thanks, Jason. Wow, I feel all the pressure coming out of my leg. It's just spreading all over the sidewalk. Putrid juice spraying across the hot Missouri sidewalk. Everyone's clapping. I'm like, yay, everyone's clapping, and I'm holding up my ice pick. I'm sure there's a way to do that. I'm sure doctors have a way. Because if push came to shove, if someone's legs were filling up with fluid, you could just chop their legs off, and then it's not a problem anymore. Like, oh no, now my hands are filling up with fluid. Doctor's like, well, luckily I'm still holding this hatchet, young man. It takes your hands off. I mean, I know it's more complicated than that, but I bet you there's a way. I bet you there's some sort of pump they can stick in you and start sucking fluid out. But not back in 1890. That would have taken a lot of leeches to save her life. I imagine the place is haunted. I'll keep looking around. And see if I can find... I'll go to... Shadowlands.net is a good ghost resource. I'll see if I can kind of cross-reference stuff. But if you're in the area, see if you can find this out. See if you know any background stories or urban legends or whatever, because I really would like to take a look at them. If any place is haunted, I imagine this place would be. Blitz Neo, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're leaving behind Spring Fork, Missouri. Why don't you fly us all the way out to California? Nice leisurely flight all the way out to the great state of California. We're headed back to the year 1995, August 1995. And we're going to be in Del Norte County for this story. That's farther up north in California. We find ourselves walking through the redwoods. We're looking up at these giant trees towering above us. But a bigger sight may be seen tonight, because what we're talking about today is Bigfoot's wiener, his main vein, the peni of the big guy. Now, you go, Jason, didn't you do an episode a long time ago about Bigfoot having oversized genitals and he was throwing it around like a lasso and he dammed up a river? It was so big. I mean, how many Bigfoot stories could they be that references genitalia? Well, what's fascinating about this story we're about to cover, Dead Rabbit Radio is 7 years old. This story, I just found out about this story a week ago. And what's even crazier than that, this story was on late night talk shows. This has video evidence. People are doing interviews about it. It's been studied for decades. I just found out about it. And to me, that's really cool because it shows how long this show can last. The fact that we're still uncovering stories that were big news. This story ended up on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. They did a whole segment on it. And so when I found this, I was like, dude, this is dope. It really shows how much stuff is right at the surface, too. This was a big story. I've never heard of this before. And I want to give a tip of the hat, a shout out to Angelo Ramsey UFOs. That's his Reddit handle, but he is writing a book. It comes out very soon, and I actually check every so often on Amazon. I'm kind of like waiting for this book to come out. It's called Bigfoot Did What? And I think it's like 40 of the weirdest Bigfoot stories. And out of the ones that he posted when he was, kind of drumming up hype for the book, I hadn't heard of any of them. Now, I'm curious if he's done the stuff we've done, like Mormon Bigfoot, or Ed and Lorraine Warren met Bigfoot, right? They don't make a Conjuring movie about that one, where Lorraine Warren was able to telepathically link with Bigfoot. It's a crazy story. I'll put those episodes in the show notes, but so much. I mean, that really makes me feel really good about the future of the show. There's just so much stuff out there. Let's get started. It's actually pretty basic setup. And just to let you guys know, yes, the video is linked in the show notes. If you want to see Bigfoot large and in charge, swinging low like a sweet chariot, you can. I watched the video. I watched the video, and it's now the wallpaper of my phone. I was like, oh, I'm alone? Time to watch a little Bigfoot footage. But anyways, let's tell the story. So basically how this all rolled out was in August of 1995 near Crescent City, California, there was a television film crew. They did a show called Adventures. This television show, this particular episode, they were having a Playboy Playmate. It's not a sex show, but Playboy Playmate. I don't know if it's still as big as it used to be, but beautiful women, right? Have a beautiful women as a guest host on your show. Fantastic. And who they had this time was Playboy Playmate Anna Marie Goddard. I think they were able to get her to do the show. I think it was kind of like a travel show or something like that, because one of the people making the show was her husband. So he kind of had the in. He's like, hey, I'm the cameraman on this show. Honey, why don't you come out for an episode? So we have a Playboy Playmate, and I believe she was Playmate of the Year, which again was really big deal back in the 90s. I don't know if it is now. I don't even know if Playboy is even around. Playboy Playmate of the Year, Anne Marie Goddard, and her husband and a bunch of others. You had a crew there. They're out in the Redwoods. They're shooting an episode of Adventures. But now it's time to break down all the gear. One of the worst parts of shooting stuff is breaking everything down. Setting stuff up is fine because you're excited. You're about to do this awesome thing. But after you've done all the shots and you have to pack all the equipment up, that sucks. So Anne-Marie and her husband and some others, they go, why don't you guys pack up all the gear? We're just going to drive around in the RV. We're going to drive around in the RV. Let us know when you're done. So they're driving around the Redwoods, and admittedly, they were drinking. But there's video footage. Anne-Marie Goddard and a couple members of the crew are driving around in this RV. It's dark. It's starting to rain. And at this point, the driver, Colin Goddard, her husband, realizes that they probably should turn around. It's getting late. They are just driving through the Redwoods. They don't really know their way around. There's no GPS back then. But Craig Miller, who was a cameraman for the shoot, he pulls out a high-8 camera, and they just kind of start shooting behind-the-scenes stuff that obviously they're never going to show anybody, just for their own, hey, remember when we went on that cool trip through the Redwoods? So he breaks out this high-8 camera, which if you don't know what that is, it's a high-8 camera. I mean, I would have loved to have a high-8 camera in 1995, but it was like a portable camera, as opposed to the big setups that you would use to shoot really crisp television level stuff. It was a video cassette camera too. It wasn't a film camera. So anyways, he pulls out this high-8 that he has because he's a cameraman. Of course, he always has a camera on him. They're kind of shooting stuff, having fun, drinking, driving. That's not fun. Through the Redwoods. Now what happens is Colin Goddard, who's driving the RV, realizes something. they've actually pulled into a dead end. And it's not even it's not even really the road at that point. And he kind of gets nervous because he doesn't know how he's going to back the RV up. And so he's like, guys, settle down. You know, let me think. I got to figure out, because we got to turn this around, right? We can't just leave it here. He's trying to figure it out. It's raining. It's dark. The headlights are illuminating what it can. I mean, talk about dark. A forest, the redwoods, after the sun sets. All you have is the headlights. Eventually, though, he's able to turn the RV around and get back on the road, but that is when they see, on the road in front of them, about 35 yards ahead, a bear. And of course, these guys being a film crew, the first thing they think of is, let's film it. Let's get footage of this bear. We'll throw it in somewhere. I mean, the quality won't match the rest of the show, but whatever, it's a bear. You have Craig filming it with his high-8 camera while Colin is just sitting there, right? They don't want to spook the bear. But that's when they realize that's not a bear. And the reason why they could tell it wasn't a bear from 35 yards away was it was swinging its arms as it walked. If you saw something move with that very familiar gait from the Patterson-Gimlin film, those arms swinging, it's immortalized as stickers and t-shirts. It's an icon, that Bigfoot walk. You see that in the forest at night, and you go, that's not a bear. They decide now to get closer to it. They didn't want to spook the bear away, but now they have to know if what they think it is really Bigfoot. Colin is slowly driving the RV at this point, and the Bigfoot is still there. They can still see it. He gets about 5 yards away from it, and when he does, to get a better view, they flip on the high beams. The Bigfoot, I mean, he's close enough to determine his facial features, and they just match Bigfoot's facial features. Sloping brow, broad flat nose, big muscular chest and shoulders. And he's just big and hairy, right? The other things you equate with a Sasquatch. They're close enough to see all that. When he flips on his high beams, Bigfoot kind of puts his arm up. To protect his eyes from the light. They said he seemed more annoyed than anything. But Bigfoot just kept walking until eventually he walked behind a giant redwood tree. At that point, you know, they're a film crew. They got the equipment. They want more footage. Craig with his camera and another guy jumps out of the RV. And they begin looking for him in the woods with the camera. But he's disappeared from sight. They want to keep looking, but the forest is too dark. It's too vast. Too easy to get lost in. Especially if there's Bigfoot nearby, right? I mean, I know hunters will track wounded animals for miles, but I mean, you do kind of want to find Bigfoot, but they end up getting back in the RV, and obviously when they go back to tell their coworkers at the pack-up site, you know, what are you guys talking about? You saw a Bigfoot? Now, there's footage. This would be a really, really easy thing to dismiss if there wasn't footage of this guy. So when they start reviewing the footage, they're able to, first off, based on the height of the trees, and people have gone out. Skeptics and researchers alike have visited this site. This is a big story. I've never heard of this before. For years, have gone out to that site to see if they could find any proof or to disprove the story. Based on, because you can go back to that exact place where they filmed it, they said he was probably about 7.5 to 8 feet tall, because they can tell in the footage what tree he's standing next to and how high his head goes up. So what's interesting was Angelo Ramsey posted this as one of the stories he's going to have in his book, Bigfoot Did What? And of course, what I like to do here is fact check it. Is this an urban legend? Because Here's the thing. It's known as the Playboy Bigfoot sighting or the Playmate Bigfoot sighting. And there's actually different versions of it. Some of them say they were shooting a Playboy video. They were shooting like a sexy video out there. The other version is, no, a Playboy Playmate was attached to a film crew doing something else. So, of course, I want to see if there's any truth to this story. People talk about whether this was actually Bigfoot, whether it was a fake, whether it was a man in a suit. That's a big allegation about it. Because when you watch the video is very brief. It's not the full driving through the woods. It's not the full chaos when they realize what they're looking at and the camera jumping out of the car. It's only a snippet of Bigfoot walking in front of the car about 5 yards away. And it could be a man in a suit. A lot of detractors say it's just a man in a suit. But maybe it's not. We don't know, right? We're taking these people at their word, and we have this video evidence. But you're like, Jason, get to the genitals. Get to the genitals. 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 You're chanting at work. You're banging on your desk. Okay. Average Bigfoot story. Average Bigfoot video. You don't know if it's real or staged. That seems to be a problem with a lot of Bigfoot videos. But this video, as Bigfoot's walking in front of the car, you clearly see a giant penis. Now, to be fair, not girth-wise, but lengthwise, yes. Right? Now, it doesn't look like a bicycle kickstand either. It's not super skinny, but it's not as girthy as you might imagine Bigfoot's dick to be. Jason, I've never imagined that, so I have no idea. And then you're lying to yourself. You did. You always have. But it's definitely bigger than a human's, I would argue. And it's pretty floppy. Like, what? That's how good the video is. The video, you can actually see what appears to be a giant Bigfoot penis flopping around as it walks, as Sasquatch walks, not the penis walking on its own. Flapping around as he walks, flop, flop, like an elephant, or a baby elephant, actually, because a baby elephant, they don't seem to be able to control their trunk as much. That's what the Sasquatch dick looks like. It's just swinging from side to side. So, I mean, you can watch the video, you might not want to watch it at work, and go, well, yeah. Now, I will say it's bigger than a human's. Damn it, Jason, I thought you were done. I thought you were going to move on. No. It's bigger than a human's, but it's not as big as I imagine Sasquatch's or Bigfoot one would be. What's interesting, though, is there's always been... what are the most famous Bigfoot footage we have? We have the Patterson-Gimlin tape, and then this one that I haven't heard of, but I didn't know it was on Jay Leno. It was a big thing. The Patterson-Gimlin tape, a lot of people have said that's a woman Sasquatch. They say you can see breasts underneath all that fur. But they definitely have never seen any genitals. If this is a real Bigfoot sighting, it's so up close, the way it's flopping around, the Patterson-Gimlin one would definitely be a woman. You can watch the video for yourself. I suggest that you do. So you can make up your own mind, right? You're like, what? Humans are way bigger than that. Maybe. But my point is that it could be a man in a suit. The question would be if it was if they were faking a Bigfoot sighting, they would have had to do it without half the cast knowing, or half the crew knowing. And why would you add such a detail? Why would you have it have a big dick? I guess if you're pulling a joke, you kind of want to make it as funny as possible, but the footage may be authentic. Now, what I find really interesting about this story, outside of a nude, semi-erect Bigfoot walking in front of a car, is that people do not like this story. Bigfoot researchers specifically, I think that's why I've never heard of it before. And it's not because they think the Bigfoot is fake, although that does factor into it sometimes. They seem very dismissive because of who witnessed it, i.e. a Playboy Playmate. They feel, and I'm putting words in their mouth, but I read a bunch of stuff getting info for this. And it feels that way. It's not considered as rigorous as a sighting as a professional Bigfoot hunter, or even just a hunter who knows the woods like the back of their hand, and then they spot a Bigfoot. Most Bigfoot sightings have zero video evidence, or photographs, or audio, or anything, and those sightings are taken more seriously than this one. Researchers who do consider this to be an authentic Bigfoot sighting, they have contacted the people involved because their real names are out there. These aren't anonymous people. These are people you could have gotten hold of at the time. I don't know how easy it would be nowadays. It's 20 years? That's not too long. They probably still have phones. But researchers who have followed up on this story said they have never changed their story. None of them. They have always told the same story. And that is a big sign that it's authentic. But a Playboy Playmate was involved. A long time ago, we did an episode called Paranormal Porn Stars, and that was about a group of porn stars who wanted to become ghost hunters. And I said in that episode, wouldn't it be awesome if it's these three Goombas find proof of ghosts, find proof of life after death? Wouldn't that be funny, just to kind of send up all of the professional paranormal researchers? I mean, me being one as well, but I go, wouldn't it be hilarious if they're the ones who finally figure out get proof of life after death and why ghosts exist and everything like that? Doing this story reminded me of that. I thought, here is a film crew who happens to have a beautiful woman with them who takes her clothes off for money, and they have video evidence of a Bigfoot sighting, and it's pretty much swept under the rug. I'd never heard of this. Bigfoot researchers. And what's funny is that it's not that they think that it's a man in a suit. Jay Leno thinks it's a man in a suit. What's really funny is I put that video in the show notes as well. I was able to locate the clip from The Tonight Show, where Kevin Nealon was the previous guest. He was a big comedian. I think he still is a big comedian, but he was on SNL. He was a huge star. And then Jay Leno's the host, and then Anne-Marie Goddard comes out on The Tonight Show, and they basically make fun of her for like 6-7 minutes. And she takes it like a champ. Like, I almost played a clip for you. I was going to play a clip, but I was like, no, I think you guys have to watch it. Like, watch the body language. They talk to her like she's the biggest dummy, because they're not necessarily saying that she faked it, but Jay Leno's theory was like, isn't it possible that it was a prank? Someone else showed up from the film crew dressed as Bigfoot and scared you guys, because he wasn't saying that the people in the RV were in on it, that they got fooled. And Anne-Marie goes, no, we were in the middle of nowhere and we actually were lost. You wouldn't have been able to set this up. Which is a really good answer. They didn't show the video. Wait, did they show the video on The Tonight Show? I don't remember. I watched the episode about a week or two ago. But I have that video and I have the Bigfoot nude video as well. But they really treat her like a dummy. And she just rolls with it. She does the smile, she does the laugh, and she answers their questions, even the rude ones. And then the segment ends with them bringing out a man in a monkey costume to humiliate her once again on national television. So, I mean, that's the way that they don't do that much anymore, but growing up in the 80s and the 90s, that's the way they treated all paranormal research. Like the Phoenix lights. People were wondering what those lights were above Phoenix. It was a big UFO sighting. And was it the governor? I think it was the governor of Arizona. Might have been the mayor of Phoenix, but I think it was the governor of Arizona, came out to give a press conference, and he goes, we've discovered what the Phoenix lights were, because people were super worried. You saw this massive starship. You'd see the outline of just all these single lights. The governor goes, we found what happened with the Phoenix lights, and they bring a man dressed up, and they bring a man to the podium dressed as an alien. It's just mockery of a real thing. And it's worth saying that years and years later, the governor came out and apologized for that and said he even now thinks that something happened with the Phoenix lights that the government was hiding. He feels really bad about that joke. So yeah, they do treat it as a non-sighting. Not that it's fake, but a lot of Bigfoot researchers seem not to take this one seriously because of the people involved. They were drinking, yes. And if they had no video footage, I probably never would have talked about it on the show. Maybe, right? Because we have a Playboy Playmate and a nude Bigfoot. Maybe I would have. But with video footage, you can't not talk about it. I'm surprised this is such an obscure story, and especially because it was a national story. So, fascinating stuff. They showed a copy of the video on hard copy. I know that, which was a national kind of tabloidy news television show. A lot of people have analyzed this video. You know, you go, is it a man in a suit? It looks weird. Not the penis, but, you know, just the way that it's moving. And it's so dark. But people have analyzed this video and no one can come to a firm conclusion whether or not it was fake or not. People just kind of have to guess. And that's the case with a lot of Bigfoot footage. And there's really not a lot of Bigfoot footage out there. It's funny because I keep saying some people are dismissive of the story because Anne Marie was involved. So the Playboy Playmate moniker was involved. Other people said the story may have not gotten any traction at all if she hadn't been involved. She was the one going on the Tonight Show. So it's possible as well. It's definitely more when you hear the Playboy Playmate Bigfoot encounter, which will probably be the name of this episode, it does kind of pique your interest as opposed to, well, okay, if it was just called Bigfoot Penis Exposed, I think that would make people click on it as well, but fascinating story. Never heard of it. I'd be curious. Let me know if you've heard of this story before. So hats off to Angelo because I'm really looking forward to that book. I want to see what's in there. And when the book comes out, I'll put a link to it in the show notes or whenever we cover it in the future because that is the work, right? Getting this information out there. Here's an interesting thing though. You go, well, Jason, so we have all these stories and you covered Bigfoots with a big penis. But that was a very specific tribe of Bigfoot, and that was like during Native American times. Why don't we see more Bigfoot? Why don't we see more Sasquatch with their thing hanging out? Why this time? With the Playmate? Well, what's interesting is there is an author named Loren Coleman, and he wrote a book called Bigfoot, The True Story of Apes in America. He's a Bigfoot researcher, this guy. And he writes in this book, quote, in my Sex in the Single Sasquatch writings and lectures, so he does, I do Why Are There No Fat Ghosts and Bathroom Ghosts and crazy stuff. It appears that he does the same thing, but I think I bought this book or I'm getting this book, Loren Coleman's book, but because I'm really intrigued about that, right? Sex in the Single Sasquatch. But he writes in this book, quote, in my Sex in the Single Sasquatch writings and lectures, for years, I've been mentioning that it does seem that some Bigfoot are attracted to trailers, like an RV. Almost as if the design of mobile homes and RVs parallel the construction of orgone accumulators, aka orgone boxes, which are supposed to be a sexual energy generating or collecting container, unquote. You're all, what? Well, here's the thing. We covered that a long time ago on the podcast. I'll put the episode in the show notes because there's so much to go into, but there's basically like this pseudo-scientific, or they would argue totally scientific, theory that you have these orgone containers or these orgone boxes, and it's been a long time since I did that episode, but you either sleep in them or you just have them in your house, and it's supposed to collect energy. It's supposed to have some sort of like invigorating effect on people, and some people say it boosts their vigor, and some people say it just makes them generally healthier, and they claim it's one of those sciences that the mainstream science is shut down because it would cure so many things, it would change so many people's lives, so they don't want people to get it. I don't know about that, but I do think it's funny because this guy's done more research on Bigfoot than I have. He goes, there do seem to be a lot of stories of Bigfoot getting sexually aroused around RVs and campers, like not actual people camping, but camper trailers. And maybe that does show that there's some sort of connection between the rectangular shape and sexual arousal, which we don't get. We've kind of shut off, but the Bigfoot is still attuned to. So that would, as weird as that theory is, that would explain why Bigfoot has an erection in this story, because he's walking by an RV and not in so many other stories where it's campers encountering them. Fascinating stuff, dude. I mean, listen, it is clickbaity with Bigfoot, big penis, Playboy Playmate. It is clickbaity, but video. You watch the video, you're like, Jason, it's clearly a man in a suit. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, you could fake it, but it is interesting they've never changed their story, and it would be hard to pull a prank if you weren't one of them. You had the camera running and all that stuff. It's not impossible, but it's improbable. So if you ever want to see the saucier side of Bigfoot, next time you go up camping in the woods, ditch all your round things. You're all ripping out your eyeballs. You're all, see you later. I only look through rectangles now. Make sure that your phone has a case on it that makes it look like a rectangle. Make sure that your food is all rectangle. Just eating crackers. You're all super dehydrated. You're all, Bigfoot, hurry up and show up. I want to see your boner before I die. All your food should be rectangular. All your objects on your body should be rectangular. Jason, no, just drive an RV. Why are you making it so difficult? You're dressed up in a cardboard box. You're you fall down a hill. You can't get up. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe you'll put a cardboard box around you to be the ultimate rectangle, and you do roll down a hill. And as you're scraped and cut up, several abrasions on your exposed ankles, because that's the only part that's showing. You put armholes in it. You're all, can't stop yourself. When you're laying face first in the thicket, and you're worried that this might be the end of your days, you hear a huffing and a puffing coming down the hill. Rescue, you think. I'm saved. But little do you know that that's Bigfoot coming down with a big boner. And he walks up to you. I thought that was the end. I thought it was just that. He just walks past you. He's all, see you later. No, he walks up to you and he goes, you need help? And you're like, yes, Bigfoot, yes, I believe in you, please, I believe in you. Help me. And Bigfoot goes, yes, me help you. And then he picks you up and you're like, oh, this is perfect. I'm no longer all in the bramble. And then he takes you home. You're like, what? You know, home's a big old rectangle. You're like, what? He's like, yes, welcome to Boner Palace. You're like, what? And then I think you'd be more than saying what. You're all, freaking out. He's like, no, Boner is nice. Boner is nice. And he helps you out of your cardboard. And you guys just sit and talk for a while. Well, you try to. He keeps sitting with his legs spread. You're like, he's sitting on a big rectangle. You're all trying to hide your eyes. He's all, you know hide eyes. Me know what you like. Me know why you came to forest. And you're like, fine. So you're just like looking at it. And that turns him on. He's the Louis C.K. of cryptids. He's like, boy. Now, whatever happens next is up to you. I don't think Bigfoot would force himself upon you. That's a pretty big if, right? It's like, I don't think so. I don't think this giant beast who's alone all the time, who craves the touch of another, I don't think he'll force his way on you. But, maybe you're good to go. Maybe you're down for that. Maybe you want to have sex with a big, hairy cryptid. That's not me. However, if I was pressed, right, if someone said, you have two choices. You can either have sex with a male Bigfoot or a female Bigfoot. Obviously, the woman Bigfoot. Right? Obviously. But the male Bigfoot can watch. By the way, maybe he's a huge cuck. It definitely is the Louis C.K. of cryptids. Sometimes he likes you to watch him. Sometimes he just likes to kick back and watch you go to work. But either way, next time you're in the woods, if you really want to have that Bigfoot sighting you've been dreaming about all your life, go in with a couple rectangles. Go in with a couple rectangles. Like, what does that even mean? You're just bringing a math book? You're like, I think there's some geometry in here. Does this turn you on, Bigfoot? Just wear stuff that is rectangular or carry around a giant rectangle. Because... Or just drive an RV, you idiot. He didn't say nothing about rectangles. He specifically mentioned cars. And where are you getting this rectangle stuff from? If you really want to have that Bigfoot sighting, why don't you make sure everything around you is rectangular, an RV included? You might just have a fun time in the woods hunting America's most famous cryptid, but there's a chance that you might have a run-in with Bigfoot himself. I'd call it a slim chance, but after watching that video footage, there's nothing slim about our furry friend's giant penis. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend, guys.